Welcome to week 1 of Polarathon.
Welcome to week 1 of Polarathon. It's cold out here.
In case you couldn't tell from my intro, the weather is very fickle here in Saskatchewan. Those two video clips that I just posted were my intro were taken one day apart. The first one was a beautiful day. I was out there wearing a bunny hug and doing my chores. And the second one was the not so beautiful day when I was out there doing my chores. And it was the very next day. So anyways, welcome to Polarathon. So I will link the description of the readathon down in the comments. It is put on by JadeyRaeReads. And this year she is doing Polarathon for a whole month instead of just a week in February. So I am excited to be participating. So I thought I would just go ahead and vlog. I'm going to do 4 vlogs, one for each week. There's 16 prompts, but I picked 7 books that will fulfill all of those prompts. Some of them only fulfill one because it's like a cover prompt, and other ones will fulfill multiple ones. So I thought I would try, because I have 7 books. There's one that's really big. It's a nonfiction one. It's the nonfiction one. It's really big. So that one will probably carry over through the whole month. But otherwise, I'm going to try and read 2 of the other books per week and then have the final week where I'm just finishing off that big one, or if there's any that I get behind on, because I do have other books that I'm also reading for other vlogs. So I thought I would go ahead and tell you about which books I'm reading. So I'll put the picture of the Polarathon prompts that JadeyRaeReads made up in the corner here so you can see them. But as you can see, we have to read something with a blue cover, a snowy setting, chilly vibes, a black cover, cozy vibes, a polar fantasy, a snowy cover, animal companion, something warm, something that's an Arctic adventure, something icy, a nonfiction, a foiled cover, a winter read, something snowy, and something with a white cover. So like I say, I ended up picking 6 books or 7 books that would cover all of those prompts together. And I'm going to tell you what they are right now, and then I'll tell you what my thoughts are about how I'm going to read them over this month. So I'll start with just the ones that I have them in a stack here. So I'll take them and tell you what I have for each of them. So for a white cover, I am reading The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is one that I am doubling up on because I'm actually reading it for another vlog where I'm reading dark academia books. So I am going to be reading this one. And I thought, since I'm already reading it this month, it has a white cover, so that will work for that one. Then I am finally going to get a chance to read The Full Moon Coffee Shop by Mai Mochizuki, which is one that I picked up last month as my reward book for finishing my TBR game. And this one for me is going to cover, let me just look at my little list here. This is going to cover warm and cozy vibes. And is that it for that one? Oh, and an animal companion, because the cat's in this one. So animal companion, warm book, and cozy vibes will be covered by this one. Then, also for my dark academia vlog, I'm reading If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. So I thought, since I have to read that this month anyway, it can cover a couple of prompts. So it's going to cover for me the black cover, and it will cover chilly vibes, because I figured chilly could mean murder as well as just cold stuff. And I have plenty of books that are cold stuff. So I thought I'd interpret chilly as murder and scary stuff. So that's for that one. Then this one is one that I'm already reading this month as well for my buzzword title prompt, which had to be water words. So I'm reading The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. And so I thought I would double up with this one as well and use this one as my blue cover, because as you can see, it's got the ocean and it's blue on it. So that's going to be my blue cover. This one gives me lots of ones to fulfill the prompt. So this is The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. I'll hold it up there so you can see it's got lots of snow and ice and stuff on it. So for this one, this is going to cover the snowy cover prompt. I'm going to use it for the icy prompt, because as you can see, there's lots of ice on the cover there, and it takes place in the winter. And for a winter read, and for the prompt snowy. So this one's going to cover all of those prompts. Then I have this beast of a book. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, but I've been wanting to read this one for a while. I love Pierre Berton's writing. He was a Canadian legend nonfiction writer. He is the person that I credit with making me love reading about history, because his books read so much like novels that they're very, very good narrative nonfiction. So I had picked up this one at a used book sale. This is The Arctic Grail, The Quest for the Northwest Passage and the North Pole, 1818 to 1909. So this one is going to cover my foiled cover, because it's got the foiled writing on it. It will cover my Arctic adventure, because obviously it's an Arctic adventure, and my nonfiction read. So that's what this one is going to cover. This is the one that I'm going to start at the beginning of the month and spend the whole month reading, because it is over 680 pages, and it's a hefty amount of writing on them. So that's that one. And then the final one that I'm going to read for this blog is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is one that I got for Christmas, and I've been really, really wanting to read. I read the first 10 pages in January for a thing I was doing and really enjoyed it. So I really want to read this one. This one is going to cover my snowy setting, because the beginning anyways is taking place in the snow. Polar fantasy, because like I say, it's a fantasy and it had snow in it. And I think that's all that this one's covering. So that should cover, those 7 books should cover all of my prompts. Like I say, I'm going to start this one at the beginning of the month and carry it through the whole month. And then these other ones I will intersperse throughout the month. So for the first week here of Polarathon, my goal is to start this one and to read this one for sure. And probably also this one, because I want to finish it for the vlog that I'm doing. So my goal for this week, my TBR for this week, is going to be these 3, if I can fit them all in. Like I say, this one's going to be a carry on throughout the whole month. These 2 I'm hoping to finish this week, and that'll be 2 prompts down, 2 books down for the readathon. I will also have a whole bunch of other things that I'll be doing this week. I've got other projects on the go, and I'll be working on my proofreading course that I'm taking, and I'll be working on my novel that I'm editing, and of course I'll be out doing chores with the animals. So you'll get to see some of that. Might have some fun wintry content if it's more like the first intro that I did, and rather than the second intro, you might get some fun wintry content. So I will catch up with you guys once I have something more to show you. Let's talk books. I spent yesterday reading because I take Sundays as my day to just guilt-free sit and read. I actually made some progress in The Secret History. This is the one that I picked for my white cover for a book. So I'm not going to tell you a lot about my thoughts on this one, just because it was one... Hi, Oscar. Can we say hi to everyone? Purring. Because it's one that I'm actually reading for another vlog, but then I also am doubling it up with Polarathon. But essentially the plot, as far as I can tell so far, I've gotten about 100 pages in, I believe, close to 100, 85, is that you're following this guy named Richard, who grew up in this tiny little town in California and wanted to escape from his life. He really hated his life, wanted to escape from it. So he got himself going to a college in, I think it's like Vermont or something like that. A big fancy college. He got financial support to go there and everything. And when he gets there, he had studied some ancient Greek for a couple of years in his community college. And when he gets there, he finds that there's this Greek professor there who has 5 students, and he... Oh my gosh, you guys. How am I supposed to even talk to people? I'm peeking over the cats. Anyway, he takes on like 5 students, and that's all he'll take on. He takes over all their classes essentially, and kind of is the oddball of the school. And the 5 students that he has are very strange. But for some reason, Richard feels really compelled to join them. He really wants to. So he manages to finally talk this professor into accepting him he essentially makes up a whole history for himself, because this guy's really picky about the kind of students he takes in. So he's made up this whole past for himself and everything, and he gets accepted into these classes. So then you're following them as they're learning things and getting to know each other. There hasn't been, in the first 85 pages anyways, there hasn't been a lot of plot. So I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen. I know from the prologue that things get pretty sinister, but I can't tell you much more than that. And I'm not going to tell you much of my thoughts on it, because that will be in my vlog where I'm reading dark academia books. And then I made some progress in, this is The Arctic Grail, The Quest for the Northwest Passage and the North Pole by Pierre Berton. That's my nonfiction book and my Arctic adventure. And I haven't gotten super far in it yet. I think I got, about 30 pages into it. But I'm also annotating a bit, because I love reading this kind of history books, and I wanted to keep track of who did what and when and everything. So I'm going through that one a little bit slower, and of course it's a huge book as well. But this is a history of the quest for the Northwest Passage, and then further on, the quest for finding the North Pole. So right where I'm at right now, you're just meeting the main characters involved in the first journey up there to try and find things, since this is starts around 1818, so it's not including the people who explored back. He talks briefly about the people who explored back in the 15 and 1600s, but not a lot of detail about them, because they're just kind of the side note in getting to this era that he's talking about. I absolutely love Pierre Berton's writing. I always have. He's the person who got me first interested in actually reading history books. And as you know from following my channel, I read a lot of history books. And I credit Pierre Berton with giving me interest in that, and particularly interest in Canadian history, because he writes a lot of Canadian history. I just absolutely love his writing. Like, here's an example. Let me just find it here. This is an example of his beautiful writing. He's talking about the first expedition. They crossed the Atlantic and entered the Davis Strait. Here was a crystalline world of azure and emerald, indigo and alabaster, dazzling to the eye, disturbing to the soul. No explorer who passed through this maze of drifting, misshapen bergs ever failed to record the feelings and sensations that engulfed him when he first encountered the glittering metropolis of moving ice. To some, the great frozen mountains that whirled past seemed to have been sculpted by a celestial architect. For here were cathedrals and palaces, statues and castles, all of brilliant white, coruscating in the sun's rays, each one slightly out of focus as in a dream. Like, I absolutely adore his descriptions. Like, honestly, when I read his book on the Klondike Gold Rush, his description of the Klondike River at the start of that book is one of my all-time favorite bits of writing, descriptive writing. So anyways, so that's the progress that I've made so far. I'm also reading a couple other books just to finish off some things from last month. But I will keep going on both of those today, hopefully, and try and get further. I don't know if I'm going to get The Secret History and another novel done this week, like I was originally planning, because it is quite a long book and it's very dense. So, but I will let you guys know how much further I get. friends. Week 1 of Polarathon is coming to an end. So I thought I would give you guys my final update on how things have been going. Nothing quite so warm and fuzzy as a kitten, a giant kitten, to keep me warm during these polar cold months. As you can see from my videos there, we had a bit of snow and everything. But quick update. So this is The Arctic Grail by Pierre Berton, and I have actually gotten to 110 pages. So not terribly far, but you know, it's coming. This is the one I'm going to take all month to read. Hi, Raven. What are you doing? And I've actually been annotating this one as well, so that's part of why it's been taking me a little longer. I'm really enjoying it so far. I love Pierre Berton's writing. For nonfiction, he is one of the premier writers that I love. This one, right now, we're following the first expeditions into the north with Perry and Franklin and their follies, the many ways that they did not learn from the people who actually live in that area and did not learn from the people who had been there before them. But it's very interesting to read. I'm quite enjoying it. So I'm going to keep reading that one, obviously. Then I have The Secret History. I am not going to tell you a whole lot about my thoughts on this one because I'm actually reading it for another vlog, but I have gotten to 40% into it. This one has been a slog, though. Finally, at about 170 pages, something interesting started to happen. So Raven, what are you doing, buddy? So I will be continuing that one as well, now that something more interesting has started to happen. Raven, don't kiss the phone. And then because that one was going so slow for me, I decided to also start The Sanatorium, which is another one that I plan on reading for this vlog, for Polarathon. This one is really good so far. I'm really enjoying it. You're following Detective Ellen Warner. She is a detective. She's on leave at the beginning of the book. Raven, don't chew on that, please. She's on leave at the beginning of the book because of some mental health issues. She gets called by her brother, who she's estranged from, to come to this it's an old sanatorium that was converted into a hotel. I believe it's in Switzerland. Or is it in France? No, it's in the Swiss Alps. To celebrate his engagement to his fiancée. But when she gets there, there's some sinister things going on. Sarah Pierce is really good at atmosphere. I'm really liking the atmosphere so far. At this point, I'm only, 66 pages in. I'm not sure yet what I think of the main character because she seems slightly unreliable just because she has so many things going on with her mental health at the beginning of the book. So, but I've heard that she becomes a character you really, really love. So I am enjoying that. There's already been some scenes where a woman has been kidnapped, and then you know from the cover that her brother's fiance also ends up disappearing. So I'm very, very curious to continue this one. Really, really wanting to know what's happening in that one. So those are the 3 books that I've been reading this week for Polarathon. I didn't finish any of them, but that's okay. For this next week, I'm going to continue with those 3. And then as soon as I'm done those 3, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read, let me see where I have them here. Yes. Let's see if I can get these out of here without knocking Snidely down. So I think next I'm going to read If We Were Villains because I want to finish my vlog where I'm doing Dark Academia. And this is for my black cover. And then for Cozy and Warm, I'm going to be reading The Full Moon Coffee Shop. And so I kind of want to read that one next week just because I feel like a change of pace from everything I've been reading. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for the next week, for week 2 of Polarathon. And I will see you guys then. Let me know if you're doing any readathons this month and what you've been reading this past week. Let me know that down in the comments and give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.